This story is brought to you by the month of Lurve.
The month of Lurve.
Epilogue. It was an idyllic day at Canter Candies. A mother and her energetic young colt wandered around, browsing the jars of hard candies, peppermints, and lollipops, while a contemplative stallion sized up the harp-shaped box of chocolates. Lyra sat on a stool by the window, plucking out a simple, sprightly melody that put a bounce in Bonbon's step. "I can't thank you enough," cheerily said. She nudged the filly at her side. "Yes, Miss Bonbon," Twist said. "I promise I'll be a big help." "Oh, of course," Bonbon said. "I was just saying to Lyra how I could really use another set of hooves around here." She sighed. "She offered to help, of course, but she always forgets not to use her magic, and the candies come out tasting horrible." I'm not very good at anything other than peppermints," Twist admitted. Bonbon reached over with a hoof to fluff Twist's mane. "Oh, don't worry about that, it just takes practice. It took me an embarrassingly long time to make something that any pony other than Lyra would try." Twist's eyes grew large. "Really? But you're cutie mark." A wan smile crossed Bonbon's face. Yeah, you would be surprised. The important thing is being willing to work hard and keep trying." Cheerilee frowned very slightly, her sharp eyes picking up on something. "Are you sure this is a good time, Bonbon? Is everything okay?" "Oh, yeah. I've just had a stressful couple of days. Life is full of surprises, you know?" Bonbon's eyes drifted over to Lyra. "Sometimes big decisions come your way, and it's hard to know exactly how to handle them." "Like wedding planning?" Cheerilee raised a hoof to stifle a giggle as Bonbon's mouth fell open. "I overheard a little songbird talking about you and Lyra meeting with Rarity yesterday, looking at white dresses." Bonbon blushed. "That, too. We haven't exactly made it public yet." Cheerilee nodded. "Well, your secret is safe with—" The door to the shop slammed open, causing Lyra's hooves to fumble and the melody suddenly fall short. Every pony turned to the door to see the intruder. A second Bonbon smirked as she marched in, her eyes sweeping across the room. After a moment, her head jerked to look back outside. She growled and trotted out, returning to shove a very miffed Twilight Sparkle through the door, with Spike following close behind. I'm going, Twilight said. She frowned sternly as she looked at the impatient Bonbon. "I still don't think this is necessary. I'm sure you're mistaken." Twilight?" Spike piped up, pointing one claw forward. Twilight turned and saw the other Bonbon, still behind the counter next to Twist and Cheerilee. She was standing as rigid as a statue, her face pale white. "Aha!" Bonbon said. "You may have been able to fool these village simpletons, but now you will receive comeuppance, impostor." She strode forward dramatically, pausing to knock a lollipop out of the hoof of the young colt who was staring at her open-mouthed. His mother gave her a dirty look. "This changeling scum has infiltrated your town and even now is probably plotting to poison you and your children. Your thanks are not necessary, citizen." Lyra finally found her mouth working again. "Get out!" she shouted, raising her hooves and shaking with anger. "Nuh-uh-uh," Bonbon said. "Not until the princess here takes care of that changeling." Twilight Sparkle blinked. This is highly unconventional. Normally we need a written request filed for any claims of identity theft, and— "Who cares?" Bonbon said. "Paperwork's stupid. Just get on with it, princess." Twilight's eyes flared, but she took a deep breath. "Fine. I do know a spell for such an occasion." The intruding Bonbon just smirked. As Twilight's horn lit up, Twist and Cheerilee both stepped in front of the original Bonbon. "You can't!" Twist said. "Twilight," Cheerilee chimed in. "Hold on a moment. Now, let's not do anything rash." Twilight's eyes widened. "Oh no, I'm not going to hurt her, I promise. I know a spell that reveals whether a pony is a changeling or not. That's all." "And when she is shown to be a fraud, then we can talk about whether to throw her in a dungeon or just exile her on the spot," Bonbon said, grinning. "Shush, you," Twilight said. She motioned with her head, and Twist and Cheerilee very hesitantly stepped out of the way. A beam of light burst forth from Twilight's horn, wrapping around Bon Bon behind the counter and enveloping her in a shroud of white. The dazzling light slowly changed colors to become a pale green. "See? Now?" The smirking Bon Bon stopped, noticing Twilight's horn still glowing. "What are you doing? Stop it!" Twilight shot a second beam of light, striking the other Bon Bon squarely in the chest. Another field of white blossomed around her before sharpening into a bright, blazing red. A few murmurs broke out from the other ponies in the store as they stared at the furious Bon Bon enveloped in a menacing red aura. The mother grabbed the colt and interposed herself between Bon Bon and her son. "What kind of trick are you trying to pull?" Bon Bon snapped. Twilight's eyes narrowed. "I think you should leave." "What?" "I think you should leave Ponyville," Twilight said, "and I would appreciate it if you would refrain from returning." "You can't be serious! This is an outrage! I am outraged!" Bon Bon's eyes widened as she looked around the room for support. Lyra was practically vibrating with anger. Cheerilee and Twist had once again stepped in front of the other Bon Bon. The lone stallion stepped forward, a serious frown on his face as he towered menacingly over her. Fine! I've had enough of this stupid town and you stupid ponies!" Bon Bon screamed, turning to gallop out of the shop. Twilight sighed. She looked up with a smile as Lyra rushed over to give Bon Bon a tight hug. "I'm terribly sorry about all that, Bon Bon. She burst into the library and wouldn't take no for an answer." Bon Bon still looked pale. Thank you, Your Majesty." Twilight looked down to see Spike frowning. "Twilight, isn't your changeling detection spell normally green for changeling and red for pony?" Twilight's eyes narrowed as they moved to meet Lyra's, looking for something. Lyra just squeezed Bon Bon tighter, glaring back fiercely. Twilight nodded slightly. "Yes, Spike. However, she was also quite possibly the rudest pony I've ever met." She smiled at Bon Bon. "Whereas I've known Bon Bon for years, and she's a good pony who can always be counted on to be friendly and willing to help others." Twilight's eyebrows furrowed at the thought of the other Bon Bon crossing her mind. Besides, she called Form 247D9 stupid! The nerve! Every pony in the shop seemed to be staring at Bon Bon, while also trying not to meet her eyes. "I do have a question for you though, Bon..." Twilight paused, looking a little guilty. "Well, I suppose I should ask. Is it Bon Bon, or would you prefer something else?" Windy is fine." "Windy, then." Twilight smiled. "Do you have any sugar-glazed daisies?" Windy blinked. Yes. I've been working on a new recipe with strawberry flavoring, if that's okay." Stars lit up in Twilight's eyes. "I love strawberries! I'll take a dozen." Windy stiffly nodded and backed up, heading for the kitchen. Lyra followed closely behind. Every pony could hear the loud whispering, even through the door. When they reappeared, Windy carried a small paper bag on her back, right between the new pair of wings she was wearing. Twilight lifted the bag with her magic and floated some bits over to a red-faced Windy. "Thank you so much. I'm terribly sorry about all the bother." "No," Windy said. "Thank you." "Come on, Spike," Twilight called out as she turned and trotted away. She peeked in the bag. "Oh, I think she put extra Honeycrisp quartz in here for you." "Really?" Spike jogged after her as they left the shop. The bell on the door rung as it swung shut, leaving Windy still standing there, every pony staring at her. Lyra laid one hoof on her shoulder in reassurement, and Windy took a deep, shuddering breath. The first pony to break the silence was Twist. "That is so cool!" The colt ran over to tug at Windy's foreleg. "Can you turn into any pony? Can you be Daring Do? Or Mistress Marvelous?" The stallion sidled up, looking away from them. Do you happen to have any special magic changeling chocolates with, extra love or something?" "I cannot believe this," Cheerilee said. "Why didn't you tell me? We talked about changelings in class just last week. But still, can you come to show and tell? The kids would love it." "Miss Windy," Twist said, "is everything okay? You're crying." "Yes," Windy said, a disbelieving smile on her face. "Everything is just perfect." The end.